Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Musicality number 3. And it's a lovely, lovely afternoon. However, in California, we do have heat wave again. So it's kind of warm. I don't know how your weather is in your area, but hope you still enjoy the tea session with us. Okay, we are going to start with brewing the tea today. So I hope you have your tea ready. This tea is the rose amber black. So today is our first time of brewing a black tea. And I have to apologize that I wrote that we're all going to use a 5 gram, but I just realized that the whole bag is 6 grams. So we're all going to use the whole bag into our teapots. And I have this teapot just a little bit over 400 ml. So I will not fill it all the way up. Okay. Now, today we don't have to weigh our tea, but I want to briefly talk about why we don't use teaspoon to measure our tea leaves, because I want to show you that tea leaves come in the different forms and different style, and if you use a teaspoon, sometimes it just doesn't really cope with the weight. And when you are measuring your tea, it should go with the weight, just like when you bake. It's always more accurate if you're using a scale. So let me show you. I want to show you. Here we have a white tea, which is very light. Unfortunately, I have some kind of issue that we'll have to do something. Okay, here is our white tea. And it comes in so furry that I have introduced you last time. This is our English breakfast. It's all crushed black tea. Look at how different they are. Okay, one is very gigantic, and this one is bold oolong. Let's measure it. If I used a teaspoon, what would it weigh? Now here is the teaspoon for the bold oolong, and I'm going to test how heavy that will be. Okay. So it comes out 4.5 gram. All right. Now let's see if I measure the crushed black tea. 1 tablespoon, that's about right. Let's see how the weight would be. Oh, 3.3. Okay, that seems like a big difference over there, more than a gram. Let's see if I go with this white tea, which is very light. This is about 1 tablespoon, and let's see how it weighs. Only 1.5. So if we go with our teaspoon to brew our teas, now you can see the bold oolong is 3 times heavier than the white tea. So we don't want to do that, because then it will not be accurate when you add your water and your temperature and all this, and the timing certainly you cannot control. Okay, so today, oh, goes here. Great, thank you. And we're gonna go and brew our tea. So let me warm up the pot first. We always warm up the pot a little bit. I hope you actually enjoy my teapot. This is antique teapot. Look at the rose on top. Totally match our theme today. And the rose, let's look at the inside of our bag. We have beautiful rose, and I see that inside I have something that's supposed to go into the teapot, so I'm going to take it out. Aha, be careful with this. So if you have it, you're following me, take this one out first. Okay, I think our teapot is warmed. I'm going to use the hot water to warm up my sharing jug, so I can share with my team later. Okay, it's warmed. Let's put over there. And we'll let it sit a little bit just to get used to the temperature. Today we're brewing our black tea with a lower temperature, with 85 degrees of water. It's because the delicacy of the rose petal. If you use, normally we will use 95 Celsius to brew our black tea, but if you use that, you really, the rose, that compound will be extracted right away, and sometimes we just kill that delicate flavor. So today we're going to use a lower temperature to brew the tea, and let's see what it brings out. Okay, I'm going to warm up my tea cup as well. I hope you also love my teacup. Also rose accompanied. Okay, now I would like to see if I can get my water temperature to 85 degrees. Let's see. Oop. Okay, normally when you transfer your water, this is about 300, to another vessel, it would drop 10 degrees easily. So let's see. We just need a few seconds. Right, it's still a little hot. So this is what I do. I pour into my sharing jug, which is clean. Okay, then it reaches 85, so it's perfect. I'm going to brew my tea now. And it goes in. Lovely. The smell, I can smell the rose. I don't know if you can. You can probably, now I'm gonna push my, this is my timer for 3 minutes. And this is all beautiful tools that you could get for tea making, especially when we need a lower temperature of water. It's always good to have something to handy that you know that if you have the correct temperature. And some people said, well, what does it do that you have a lower temperature water? It's not really like you're scorching the tea or something. It's because the hot water will help the tea to release the compound and the catechins and polyphenols in very quickly. And if you release very fast, then you have no control. So if you are brewing green teas, because green tea is very young, so as I said last time, just like young girls, they're just so energetic, they will release everything right away. So if you use a lower water temperature, they will not release all the compound right away, and you're less likely to have a tea that is bitter or very astringent. Now some people really enjoy astringency, but not everyone loves it, astringency. Green tea particularly has all this original substance in it. So if you brew them too fast, too quickly, and you ended a cup of kind of unpleasant tea, then this will ruin your mood of drinking that tea. So just be careful with some tea that require lower temperature of water. And I still have 1 minute and 15 seconds to go. So later we are going to make scone, and I want to let you know that I have pre-made a video for you to watch. So you probably say, hey, how come it looks a little bit different on the location? That's because today I have a special treat for you. I will play the piano for you, and we can really move our videos over. I mean, you're gonna feel like it's an earthquake. So we don't want to put you through that suffering. So we will do that. And before we drink our tea, enjoy our tea, I will also have something I want to remind you that if you don't think you have received the link for our Zoom meeting, it's probably went to the spam folder or maybe junk folder. So next week, I encourage you by Friday night, I want you to check your spam folder on your email and see if you have received the link. Otherwise, it's such a stress for you. Like, I know you can't wait to see me, but in the same time, you don't know how to see me with this COVID thing. So this is what I can help you. And normally by tomorrow night, Sunday night, that you should receive a summary of today's class, and it will come as attachment to your email. So all you have to do is open your attachment, then you have it. Okay. Now the tea is ready, so we'll put it over here, and let's see. I particularly have a glass one, so you can see the color of the tea. Well, I wonder if you have noticed the tea is a lot darker than last week's tea because it's a black tea. But why is not black? Well, black is a terminology for Western culture, but in the Asian culture, we call it red tea. Do you remember? And look at the color over here. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful rose smell. And the color is kind of like it's a little like red wine. It's a little bit orange red. Isn't that beautiful? That should be an indication of a high quality black tea. So you always look for this. And look at the liquor of the tea itself. It's very, very clean and clear. And that's also another indication of a good quality tea. Okay. And we can also look. Let's look at the inside of our teapot. Now the rose is still remaining pink. That's basically what the flavor came from. Very beautiful. And can you see also the black tea is a whole leaf, and that's what we're looking for. Okay. It's best if you could find the black teas, it's in a whole leaf session. So we will have a taste later. I think it's a little bit hot. Now why don't we go on to our next session and we'll enjoy this later. It's kind of hot. Okay. Let's go on. I think I would like to talk about the scope making. I want to give you a little bit of heads up that we are about to watch a video that I made this morning. Here on the slide, the next slide, you will have all the ingredients, but don't bother to write it down because I will send it to you. And if you wish to watch the video again, that instructional video, you can find that video on YouTube. All you have to do is search Sally's Parlor, and the video is there already. Okay, so let's go on and then watch how we make the traditional scone. Hello everyone, and welcome to our scope making session. And today I would like to show you my favorite vegan scone recipe with the two variations. One is traditional with, and we call the raisins, and the other one will be blueberry and rosemary. So let's get started with our first traditional scone making. That I have divided the recipe that you received into two parts, so we're just going to be using half of that. One half for raisin, the other half for blueberry and rosemary. Okay, let's get started. And first of all, you have to set your oven to 425 Fahrenheit or 220 Celsius, and then preheat, because you don't want to have your beautiful scone made and then going there that the oven is cold. Especially we're making vegan scone. Timing is very important. Okay, I'm gonna put on my gloves, and here's my bowl. First of all, you have to make a little bit interesting stuff that normally you will buy buttermilk from the supermarket. But today we're going to make our own vegan buttermilk. That all you need is your plant-based dairy milk, which I have over here is soy milk. And put 2 teaspoons of organic apple cider to it. And then wait for 5 minutes. That will turn into a beautiful thickened milk, which I have one that pre-made that I would like to show you. And what you need to do is use a little bit fork. Use the fork and just stir a little bit. And here we have just a thickened buttermilk-like of a consistency in this jar, which will milk use later. Okay, now we need 2 cups of flour. Let's see what I'm doing over here. I have my fork here. When you measure your flour, you don't want to pack the flour. So you're going to fluff your flour bowl a little bit. And then measure for 2 cups. Gently level it. Put in your bowl. Traditionally, if you don't have a food processor, you can use your fingers to do the next step, which will be flour, and this is our oil. Coconut oil. See where it is? Okay. Coconut oil is used because it represents the solid oil part that we need to make this flaky taste of our scone. Then we will have sugar, salt, and our baking powder. Okay, now here I'm going to give a little stir of my dry ingredient. Then I will use my fingers to start to rub in my fat, my oil, not my fat. We could do this, it will take up a while. And if you have a food processor, this is what I'm going to show you. It works such a magic. Okay, here we go. Here's our food processor. Let's put this in the food processor. And close the lid. We give it a few pause. I need to get this thing. Okay, pause a little bit. If I can plug it in, and I think that will help. No, doesn't it? Okay, here we go. Now we're all set to go. So pause 5 times. 3, 4. Oh, 4. Now you start to see this sandy texture. 6, 7 times. Okay, now we're ready to go. I want to show you what the texture is like. Okay, you can see a little bit sandy, kind of a thing, just like the beautiful beach. Okay, now I'm going to dump into my bowl. And all dump in there. Here are the 2 cups of flour with my coconut oil, and that's the base. And you can see this beautiful, a little bit colored, gently light colored, this basic wet ingredient with oil in it. And before you put your wet ingredient, if you're making a traditional scone, then you put some raisins. Okay, that's a very important step, because as soon as you mix with your wet ingredient, you want to make your scone, you want to cut your scone and put it in the oven right away. The thing is, with the vegan scone, the timing is so important. When the agent, which is baking powder, works with the acid, which was the vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and as soon as they start to work together, you want them to keep that fluffy feeling to it. Okay, here we go. Now we're ready to go. It looks like you don't have enough liquid, but actually you do. Okay, now we are going to mix them together. I love to work with my dough here, because just have this wonderful smell. Okay, do you see the texture? Looks like a very dry dough, but that's totally okay. And I'm going to use my hands. Okay, I have my glove, so it's not so sticky. Okay, good. We're ready to go. Now I'm going to put on the flat surface. It looks very wet, but that's totally okay. I'm going to sprinkle some of the flour. Here we go. Generously, no problem. Okay, don't be shy. Now, we're just going to dump our dough. Oh, guess what? Easily, I could use the spatula. Here we go. See the wet dough here? You don't want to overwork your dough. It's totally okay. Like this. Okay. Now, it's very wet. We're going to sprinkle more of the flour on top. Sometimes you think that if it's too wet, you don't have to use all your liquid. Okay, now I kind of make it like a little thick round, but not any shape, it's okay. Because you want to be able to cut in a very high and tall rounds over here, and I can make it a stone shape. Now look over here, we're ready to go. Okay, very quickly. See, I did not really stir for a long time. You shouldn't, otherwise you'll make it really tough and chewy scone instead of flaky. Okay, quickly push down, and here we go. We have our first scone. I'm going to put on my lined baking sheet. Now, the second one, if you're afraid that will stick to your round cutter, then you could always dip into the flour. Dip into the flour. Okay, here's the second one. We'll keep working on it. Keep working on it. Ooh, all right. Ooh, beautiful. Careful with my beautiful scones. Okay, here we go. And you can also gather your leftover dough and make more scones like this. Just gonna put them together. Again, you don't want to overwork on it. Now, generously sprinkle more flour to it. Here we go. Now, ready to cut more. See how high I'm making it? Because we want the scone to be really high up, and then we can break it up when we eat with our jam and Devonshire cream. See that? Okay. I think I have more space for two more. Sometimes I would turn around, see what's like this, and I would turn 90 degrees, and that will automatically make shape. We'll dip into the flour again. Okay, my 4. This is probably my last one. Okay, turning 90 degrees, cut another one. Ooh, look at that, beautiful. Oh well, this tiny little one, I'm just gonna make a little one for my dog. Who knows? We're ready to put this beautiful tray into our oven. And we'll be back in 10 minutes. Hello, and we are back. I know in 10 minutes, but actually we don't have any 10 minutes. We already made our scone. I want to show you. So this was the variation. You will be able to see that I put on the recipe for you and also instructions or the video that you will have a second half. This is actually blueberry and the fresh rosemary that we made earlier today. So later we get to enjoy it. Okay. So let's go on to the next section, and I would like to talk about the teas. Since we're having a tea that has flour in it. So you will say, what is the pure tea, or what is a scented tea, or blended tea, or what's the difference over there? Is all the blend teas good or bad? You like to know, don't you? Okay, so let's talk about it a little bit. The blended tea, normally, traditionally, that means you blend more than 2 kinds of tea together. For example, this is the most traditional English breakfast. It combines the 3 different types of black teas. Remember black tea? But sometimes you can mix. Later, we're going to do a DIY, a different tea. So English breakfast, traditionally, you will use the Keeman, which is Chinese black tea. Then you have Yunnan black tea. Then you have Assam. But nowadays, Chinese teas are very expensive. And more countries in Africa start to grow tea. And you know, it's a lot cheaper for the merchants to get the tea and much easier. So now, English breakfast has abandoned Chinese tea. Now they use Assam and African teas to make that the flavor they like. As I said the last time, that every tea can actually produce different types of a tea. So all you have to do is the processing the way you like it. Then you can make the tea. So you can blend 3 different kinds of tea and create a new tea. How's that? So here are 2 more teas that I want to show you. These 2 teas are actually quite identical. This one is called Earl Grey. You know what Earl Grey is. Earl Grey is also a scented tea. What it's being scented for? By bergamot, which is kind of like orange. It's grown in the Mediterranean area. It was scented with the oil. So that kind of aromatic, it's still very strong. It's very loved by a lot of people. And personally, I love Earl Grey tea. Now look at the other kind. It has some kind of blue cornflower in it. Honestly, it doesn't do anything. It's just for the look. So from Twinings, I got these 2 teas from Twinings, which is the oldest tea shop in England. That Earl Grey, and this one's called Lady Grey because the beautiful color of a blue cornflower. So this is all these broken but very high quality, traditionally Western black tea that you can enjoy. But now you know that's called blended tea. And when you've been scented with a different flavor, different substance or different ingredient, that can be called scented tea. And in China, scented means that you are actually scented by flowers, not just artificial oil or some kind of thing. It's actually a very complicated process. For example, for jasmine tea, if you buy a jasmine tea that you think that would just be tea and with a jasmine flower, that's not it. That tea actually has to go through almost 3 weeks of process every day, 7 to 8 hours. 1 layer of tea, then couple layers of jasmine teas, about thousands. You put it over there and then let the tea absorb the aroma of the flowers. Then the next day you remove the jasmine tea, then you will dry these tea leaves. Then that day you will repeat the same process. Then the tea will get aroma and the moisture from the flower again. Then you remove that flower, then dry the tea again. And over again, you could do this for 3 weeks, 21 days, just to make a high quality of flower scented jasmine tea. So it's not as simple as you think. But nowadays, it's a lot of problems in stores. And later, we're all going to explore that. While I was talking about blended tea, I want to show you, there's another blended tea that's very, very well known. It's called Russian Caravan. And Russian Caravan, of course, that's because the Silk Road that the Russians got a long time ago, they also enjoy tea very much. If you know that tea is also a very popular drink in Russia. But how did it come to call the Russian Caravan? Is it just single one kind of tea, or it's actually multiple different kind of tea? I have to show you. This is very unique tea. As a matter of fact, it's my husband's favorite tea. And it combines 2 parts of Wu Oolong, which I have it over here. 2 parts means, remember, it's not 2 teaspoons, it's by weight. So we're all going to do that is, I'm going to weigh, let's see, 2 parts. What I'm going to do is I will have, okay, now, I'm going to have 5 grams of the oolong tea. The oolong is not bold. It's actually quite open, and that's what the name is from, the oolong tea. It looks like a little dragon. So let's see, we are going to have 5 grams. Oh, we're almost there. Okay. I want to do the right 5 grams. Perfect. I'm going to put it in a jar. Okay, now what's next? I am going to have some cumin black tea for 2.5 gram. Perfect. Okay. Why am I so lucky? I just got it right. Put in our jar again. And what's missing? I need Lapshan Souchong. This is smoked black tea. And that's the original black tea. Very original from the world. Has a very, very strong smoky flavor. And that's what makes the Russian Caravan so unique. Okay, now we're going to have one part. Don't worry, you're going to have the recipe. All these teas are loose tea leaves, and they are unbroken. But you can see the size. They're very, very different. Okay, 2.5 grams. So how does it make to total weight? Oops, I'm putting the wrong one. Okay, it makes 10 grams of Russian Caravan. So easy. This is my regular jar. I'm going to close the lid and mix well. Then you have your DIY homemade Russian Caravan. Be very gentle because you don't want to crush it or anything. You want to stir the tea, want to remain as the wholeness. There we go. DIY Russian Caravan. Okay. I hope you enjoy it and you will try it at home as well. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Oh yeah, well, I forgot to show you some of my favorite scented tea. This is by Bigelow, which is the largest tea company in the United States. And this is how they started, by the founder, which is current CEO's mother, about 60 years ago, and she blended this old recipe with some orange peel and cinnamons, and this is just loved by a lot of people. So scented teas, it's not all bad. And these tea, I got it from Charleston. If you don't believe that we United States actually grow teas, okay? So I got it from the tea farm, Charleston Tea Plantation. They make their own peach tea, which is so popular in the South. The South, everyone drinks iced tea no matter where you go. So they have peach flavor, or you could have a raspberry flavor. But you will not see peach pieces or raspberry pieces in your tea because they're scented by the oil or flavor. Sometimes if you are lucky, I shouldn't say you're lucky, I think you should be careful. When you smell the tea, especially scented, you want to smell it, see if you have a little bit of the artificial scent to it. If it doesn't make you feel very comfortable, it's probably artificial, chemical kind of a scent. So you don't want to buy that. You will be ending by spend a lot of money but don't get much of it. You don't, I mean, might as well drink pure tea, right? Okay, so we made our thing. Now I'm going to brew 2 teas for you. Why are we brewing so much tea today? Because I want to show you that sometimes the teas from the store, they're quite expensive, but they're not that great. Okay, I got it. It's a big set over here. So I shouldn't show you what it's from, but I can tell you this called, what is it called? Yeah, I don't want to show the name of the tea, so maybe a little bit away of our camera. Okay, let me pull it out. I'm showing you both are green teas, but with a different flavor in it. And then people like the scent of cinnamon, like the scent of vanilla, coconut, the lemongrass. So the merchants, they have created different teas for you. But as I say, you want to be careful. Okay. When we smell Camellia sinensis, which is where tea plant is, you can't really smell the dry tea leaves unless it's being heated. So if you go to a tea store and you want to smell it, you say, wait a minute, I can't smell anything. Everything smells nothing. So they will put in a little bit chocolate to it and say, oh yeah, that smells lovely. They put a little bit mango into it. Oh, that smells lovely. So you were actually going to a tea shop, buying dry mango or chocolate, not a fruit tea. So I'm going to show you. These two are green teas. First of all, I want you to examine this. This one is higher quality because you can see the bigger pieces, and the tea is more in a more unified shape. This one, the tea color looks a little dull, and mixed with lemongrass. It said it's supposed to have some kind of a coconut, but I have not found any coconut yet. Okay, so we're all going to brew those teas to see how it looks like and how it tastes like. So here we go. May I have the hot water, please? Thank you. Yeah, I certainly make my team very busy today. Very sorry. But sometimes we just have to do some kind of experiment. All right, so these two gallons are being warmed, and we don't have to warm it for too long. So, okay. Okay, may I have the pot, please? Thank you. Okay, here we go. I got it. Here we go. Yeah. All right, and then this, we need to dump it. Now, we are just gonna brew this quickly and see what it tastes like on my tincture taste. Now you have lots of pieces in here. I'm gonna put this pretty much same amount of teas into it. This tea is so unique. You have peppercorn, you have cardamom, you have star anise, all sorts of things. I feel like I'm actually buying some kind of a cooking spices, not green tea. Okay, so let's see. We will brew it. Since we're going to brew in a pretty identical timing, so we'll get to see what it tastes like and what it looks like. It'll surprise you. This is what you're buying from the store, or even sometimes from a high-end tea stores. They say, wow, smell this. Oh, wow, wonderful. I smell coconut. But you remember what you're buying, right? You're buying tea. Okay. That looks pretty good. You see? The color is pretty nice. Okay, let's see this one. What it will look like. I should have a strainer, but that's okay. Thank you. Okay. Now I want to show you. Do you see the difference in color? They both are green tea. Supposed to be a little lighter, like this one. This is what I said. This is the high end. It's quite expensive for mixed green teas. It's blended with it. But look at how cloudy this one is. This one's cloudy, and the color is very dark. This is not the correct color for good sancha, good green tea. So I want you to be careful. In the future, we'll do a little bit more of a detailed description of buying good teas. But here, as you can see, I will not recommend you go in there, buy something, you think you're buying a bargain, because you're drinking green tea and it's good for your health. But I'm not sure. Are you going to drink this? I don't know. Okay, so thank you. All right, let's go on to the next section that I want to show you. Sometimes you say, I don't want any caffeine. So is herbal tea a tea? Let's clarify that. Tea means the product from Camellia sinensis. If that thing, you can make a drink, but it's not from Camellia sinensis, I would not suggest that you call it tea. Right now we have a new name called tisane. And tisane is much easier to understand because you're using a part of a plant to make a beverage. Most of the time is for your health or for your personal taste. So in my garden, I have peppermint, I have mint, and I have lavender, I have rosemary. All these can make into teas, and there's no caffeine. You can enjoy any time of the day. So these are some of the, this is the lavender I harvest from my garden, and this is orange peel. Can you believe it? Yeah, orange peel. And chrysanthemum, osmanthus, that we are going to enjoy next week, this kind of tea. And I want to show you something. Do you want to guess what this is? You don't know. Little pieces. You think I'm drinking out of, I picked the wood or some kind of chips from Golden Park, right? It's actually cocoa shells. You can make it into, I don't know what it does for you, but guess what? If you don't want to add any calorie to yourself, you don't want to drink a cup of cocoa, you could make tea out of this cocoa shells. That you certainly can enjoy the flavor of cocoa, but no calorie. All right, that's what I call, that's the advantage. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to our music. So today, everything is involved with rose, and that's why we pick rose tea, and I pick a lot of pieces around roses. And I want to play for you. The first piece is by an American composer, MacDowell, and he actually studied in Paris, in Germany, and he lived in Germany for a while. Even he taught some piano over there, but eventually he couldn't make ends meet, so he decided to come back to the United States. He resided in Boston for a little while, but his talent was discovered by a very famous university, Columbia University. So Edward MacDowell was the very first music professor that Columbia University have ever hired. And he basically started the music department there. So we're all going to listen to one of his pieces called To a Wild Rose. I'm going to walk over to my piano. Very short piece, and it's one of the pieces, the first piece from his music suite called Woodland Sketches, Opus 51. Here we go, To a Wild Rose. Here, To a Wild Rose. Can you smell the wild rose? That's so beautiful in the wild, in the forest by itself. But I guess the rose is enjoying its quietness. Okay, so now let's move on. I want to introduce you another famous piece that probably everyone knows how to sing. That's from a famous vocal composer, Franz Schubert. He lived a very short time, and he did not have a great life during his lifetime. However, he was loved by his friends, so he was able to compose lots of pieces. Even though he only lived for 31 years, but because his talent, just like Mozart, for a musician like us, we don't consider a lot of famous composers as genius, but we can say Mozart and Schubert are definitely musical genius. The music just keeps popping out from their mind. They don't know when that come from. I heard the story that one day that Schubert was having a meal with his friend in a restaurant, and all of a sudden he just can't wait. He said, "I need to compose. Where's the pen? Where's the paper?" There's no paper. So they hand him a napkin. So he wrote his piece on the napkin. So that's how much that he just always have music in his head. He composed, even though he was very young, died very young, he composed more than 600 vocal music, not mention all the symphonies and piano music and all the things. He grew up that his father was also a teacher, that Schubert actually taught in schools, and his father was a schoolmaster. So he always wanted Schubert to help him to teach children, but that's really not what Schubert wanted to do. However, he was just a good kid, so he never married in his life, and he taught in his father's school for many times. But eventually he said, I really need a quiet time, quiet place to compose. And just that's what I want to do. So his friend helped him to rent a little apartment, and eventually rent a bigger apartment. They all live together, and all they do is help pay for Schubert's food and lodging and clothing and everything, because all he knew was to compose music. He doesn't really know how to make money. And when he was very young, he would play it for Beethoven, and Beethoven said, "This is a genius." And Beethoven appreciated his talent. These two giant musicians, they actually died only 8 months apart. Of course, Beethoven was so much older than Schubert. And I remember I heard another story that Schubert attended Beethoven's funeral, and they have a custom. They will toast to the person who would die next. And so everyone toasted to Schubert while he died 8 months after Beethoven died. So now let's listen to this piece. Is the piece that he actually composed for singers. And it can be sung for soprano, which means for female voice, or it can be sung for tenor, which is for male voice. So let's listen to this, The Little Rose in the Moor.
So ein Knopf, ein Röslein stehen, Röslein dufte Heide, war so jung und morgenschön, wie versteht. So ein Knopf, ein Röslein stehen, Röslein dufte Heide, war so jung und morgenschön, wie versteht es not so sehr, so mit vielen Freuden. Röslein, 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 Röslein auf der Heide. Knabe sprach, ich breche dich, Röslein auf der Heide. Röslein sprach, ich steche dich, dass du ewig denkst an mich, und ich will's nicht leiden. Röslein, 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 Röslein auf der Heide. Und der wilde Knabe im Wachs, Röslein auf der Heide. Röslein wehte sich und stach,
All right, so another famous rose song that you just heard. Now we're gonna go on to our real music today. Is the Waltz Roses from the South and composed by Johann Strauss. Now his father was also a composer and also famous before this Johann Strauss Jr. But later on, he actually exceeded his father's fame, and everyone just think that he's so much better than his father. This son never had a good relationship with the father. The father wanted Johann Strauss to become a banker because he said, hey, we make more money. Being a composer, being a musician is not really that fun. So, but the Johann Strauss Jr. just want to compose, so they have fight all the time. It's only the father would not allow him to take music lessons only until the father actually abandoned the family and went off with a mistress. So basically no father anymore. Strauss was able to study music and supported by his mother. But in his life, he wasn't that lucky either. He married a woman that he loved very much. They stayed together for 18 years, but then she died because of illness. Then later he married his second wife, but the second wife was the actress, and she wasn't very interested in his music. So she always wanted him to make money and pull him back, and then don't want him to compose. And he couldn't stand her anymore. So he sought for divorce, and wasn't very easy, especially when they were actually Catholic. So getting a divorce is not that easy. But eventually he get to marry another woman that they get really together, and the third wife really supported him. So that was Strauss' life. Did not have a good relationship with the father, have a trouble with his marriage. How about the music? Not a lot of people appreciate his music because of what he composed, and some people just say, oh, look at his music, waltz. I mean, that's all he does. And he also composed some operas. And people just don't look as serious and they say, oh, it's not good. Especially even some famous contemporaries, they just look down at him. But he just kept going, kept composing, and eventually he really made his name as King of Waltz. And then I want to introduce the person who nowadays most famous performing Johann Strauss's waltz is this called Johann Strauss Orchestra. It was established by Andre Roux, that he was a Dutch violinist. His father was also a conductor in the local symphony. So he has been immersed in music since he was very young. I want to read something about Andre, that he, to me, that not only he created this orchestra, everyone dressed very beautifully, and he's just so romantic. And he's really a king of a romantic. He has been married almost 60 years with his wife and living in a very romantic castle. So he really knows how to live life. But I want to read something that he quoted for his life and his philosophy about music. He said, my concerts are about joy and love, says Andre Roux. We should make decisions in our lives with our hearts, not our heads. People often ask me, how do you choose your program? The answer is, with my heart. With my heart. And he also said, my dream is to make the whole of classical accessible, the whole world of classical music accessible for everyone. To achieve that, I've had my own recording studio built, and we are working hard to make new recordings of the classical repertoire. So that's what he's working on. He also said, very last words, I hope I may be given many more years to make people happy with my music. So now we are going to enjoy the film made by Andre and his orchestra. And this piece is a little longer than 8 minutes. So I want you to pour your tea, enjoy your tea, and listen to the waltz, Roses from the South.
Einer der allerschönsten Walzer von Johann Strauss. Rosen aus dem Süden.
partners want to dance, want to have a partner, and then dance waltz. So I hope you enjoyed today's music, and I look forward to seeing you again next week, which will be our final week for Musicality. And get ready of your tea kettle, your teapot, and we'll brew tea together. And don't forget, if you don't get the link, that it's probably in your spam folder. So I'm sorry that we went over a few minutes, but if you have any questions, let me know. I know there are a couple questions. I quickly saw one. Yes, you can brew your tea more than once. If it's in Western style of brewing, you can definitely, because it's high quality tea, you can definitely brew another 2 or 3 times. And every time add additional minute to it or 30 seconds to it. I will recommend every time you use a lower water temperature to brew your tea, a little lower, so you will not extract all this astringency so much because the leaves already open. So I hope that help you with your tea brewing, and enjoy your tea. See you next week. Bye bye.